What keeps you going?
If you take your mind off of what you're doing and where your feet are, your mind's gonna start wandering.
Right, if you have that plan B.
Excuse my language, but fuck plan B.
This podcast is sponsored by Plan B.
Well, plan B. Plan B in your internal mind.
All right, what's up, y'all? Episode, I don't know which, Fill the Gap podcast. I actually recorded one. The audio was shit. So I might have said what episode number that was, but I scrapped it. So we're off already. I think we're less than 10 episodes into this thing. Nice. But this is my first podcast with my boy Miles.
Yes, sir.
So today is just like every other day. I'm rocking Cuts because this podcast is sponsored by Cuts. Miles chose not to wear Cuts for today, but that's okay. I even offered to give him a shirt off my rack. But
shout out to off season.
But yeah, this is our first podcast with a guest, and I say our. By our, I mean me and my production team, Ricky maybe. But yeah, so we're doing it. Different setting. Got it in the living room this time. We're like the I Am Athlete broke version of it. But yeah, so Miles, you and I go way back. It's crazy because a lot of people don't. You always see those stats. Like, granted, I'm not anybody, but you always see those stats like, oh, this person played football with this person. Like, oh, Devontae, who is it? Devontae Adams
John
played.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Stuff like
so
that.
it's always those crazy ones.
Yeah.
And I remember back. Fuck, man, this is MySpace days.
Dude, yes.
I was gonna say this is MySpace days. Cause like, I mean, so I'm 31, right? So I graduated high school 2009. You're what?
2010.
10?
Young for the grade, 28.
So I remember after I graduated, after I got my scholarship, you played at Windsor.
Northridge.
No, high school.
Oh, Windsor.
So you went to Windsor High.
Yeah.
And I just remember you were that dude, that up and coming dude. And I was like that up and young and coming dude or whatever when I was like a sophomore and I was a junior. I remember I sent you a message on MySpace.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. It was something along the lines of like,
it's good to see.
Yeah, good to see you doing your thing, man. Keep going, blah, blah. Because you were a two-sport athlete. Like I was a kind of a two-sport athlete. You were like a legit two-sport athlete.
Tried to be, man.
But yeah, guess fill us in on who the hell you are, why we should be listening to you.
How you guys doing? First off, thank you for having me. Very blessed to be here, man. You know, we go way back, so I'm super excited to do this. But Miles Williams, originally from Texas,
Part of
Dallas,
Texas.
North Dallas,
Texas.
Flower Mound, went to Liberty Christian. Shout out Jason Witten's now our head football coach at Liberty Christian. So, but went to Liberty Christian, then transferred to Windsor. And
why'd you guys move out to California?
My pops, VP of FedEx Western Region, got promoted again. So we made that jump. And to be honest with you, it was, now I'm older, I realize why he did it for me too. I went from being a big fish in a small pond to being a shark in a pond. When it came to athletic wise, at least.
Right. And you mean by being like a small fish or whatever in a big, because like especially when you're talking about football, right? Because you were two-sport varsity athlete at a young age, and so you were like that dude obviously in Sonoma County. Like Sonoma County is a small talent pool, if you will. I came from it as well. They always looked at me and they were like, you're a big fish in a small pond. Do you want to go like Pac-10? That's all they are. You can go Pac-10 and you'll be a small fish in a big pond. I don't know. I think probably at that time, how old were you when you guys made the move?
Man, I was 15.
Right. So like at that time,
15.
that fucking sucks.
Dude, it sucked, man.
Especially like you're in the sports state. Like Texas is the football state. It's obviously the football. It's the baseball. I mean, Arizona's kind of the baseball state, but like it's that state. And so how did you handle that? Man. Did that fracture like relationships with your family or?
I'm an only child and it's us three. So it definitely it sucks for me, man, just because when it came to the travel ball circuit, I was on the number 4 team in the nation. We're the Dallas Yankees. Then it went Georgia Seminoles. Then it went some other team or a team from up here, and then it went NorCal, and then it went the SoCal Red Wings. And just to put this in perspective for you, I wish that we had like Instagram and stuff like these kids do today, because their ceiling is so much higher than they really realize.
That's what I'm saying.
And you can get looked at. I was blessed enough to be playing in these big tournaments in baseball from I started the big tournaments at like 8 years old.
Yeah.
But I get my first offer in 8th grade, and to a Division I school. To me, I expected that.
Right.
But to everybody else, they're like, "Oh, that's a big deal." My dad prepared me for those things, and it just kind of went up from there. But I was already established in Dallas, and to go to a place and have to kind of, it was good. But, oh, we got this kid from Texas that plays football and baseball. So it was like, I don't really feel pressure, but it felt like I needed to prove myself, because these kids have been playing. You know how Sonoma County is. You played with Ryan Decker since you were this high.
I just saw him. I just saw him on Friday.
Shout out to Ryan with Rush. You guys grew up playing together.
Yeah, man. Everybody's so tight knit. I saw like Drew.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh.
I saw Drew, Ryan, and whatever on my birthday. Yeah. And they've been playing for forever, right?
Facts.
It's different than like if you're playing on this travel circuit and kids come in. Yeah, there's like a core group, obviously, but kids come in, cycle through, and kids' parents move them to Dallas to come and play. Like, you're a big thing over in Atlanta. Like, all right, cool. Now we're going to bring you to Dallas. You're going to play there. Or now we're going to bring you to Phoenix. And you're going to play there. Facts. So kids are always coming in. In Sonoma County, that's how nobody's moving to Sonoma County to bring their kid there to play. Yeah, obviously there's a good talent pool, right? But it's like everybody starts there, and think of it as a farm system, like they've all moved up, and it is so fucking hard to etch your way in as to try to be a teammate to somebody like that.
Man.
And I faced that too when I was playing football. Yeah. And so a lot of my like story in high school was I was a fucking hella shy kid. I was super shy, and I was put into a position where I was asked to play quarterback. I didn't start playing football until I got to high school. I played in front of my house. That was about it, right? I didn't play any Pop Warner, so I didn't play with any of these kids that were growing up. And then moving into that, I started playing like tailback and free safety or whatever. That's a whole different story. But when I got asked to come up to varsity, the head coach, Coach Conroy, was like, "I want you to play quarterback." And I was like, fuck no. I was like, no, like I don't got the balls to play quarterback, basically. It was just like a big like learning curve. And then on top of it, it's like quarterback, that's where all the notoriety's at. And I still remember I got brought up to varsity. The first game we played against Piner, and I was playing free safety, and there was my buddy who's my friend now. The guy was a junior. He was a starting free safety. And Coach Nelson, he was like the track coach there. He's like, "I want you to start this week." And I was like, "I don't want to start," because all of the guys on the team who had played since Pop Warner together, they were like, "Nah, this is like," I'm not going to say his name. "This is like dude's position." Yeah. So like he's going to start. And so everybody rallied behind him.
They like
and so
did the jersey with
I felt like an outcast for sure. So then long story short, I got a pick on my first game, and then I started every single game after that. But he used to pull me out. Like I used to be out there, and then he'd like be like, "Hey Cody, like I'm coming in." And so I'd come out, and then the coach would look at me like, "Why the fuck are you out?" And then going into my junior year, it was a lot of the same thing. There was a kid who had played quarterback with these kids, all of Pop Warner, Rush, Decker, and all of them. And he had issues, right? Yeah. I had played baseball with him since we were in Little League. Like I grew up with this kid. And long story short, he ended up getting kicked off the team. And the coach was like, "Hey, you got to go from playing running back to playing quarterback." And our next game was against Jesse Bethel on Vallejo. Yeah. And or Fairfield, one of those two. And everybody was so mad that the kid got kicked off the team. They're like, "Cody, this isn't your spot. This isn't your this, or this and that."
It's more pressure on you. Like, dude, I'm just here.
Pressure, self-doubt. Like, it's hard enough to come in to a new place and learn how to play a sport. Luckily, you had already known how to play the sport, but it's still at a higher level, But then the people that are supposed to be there supporting you, they're talking shit behind your back.
Facts.
The person whose spot you took, they're talking shit behind your back. So like my situation was different.
And the parents, bro.
The parents are a whole nother thing, bro. Yeah. And this person whose son got kicked off the team, his dad was like a very vocal person. He was a coach of a lot of teams and whatnot. And so that was tough, bro. That was my whole junior season. God. We went 11-2.
I remember because I watched you guys play against Newman, and I just remember it was super cold, and I was like, damn, who the hell is that big ass rock looking dude playing safety? I was like, that's a Texas boy. Right. They're like, oh, that's Cody Allen. That's Cody Allen. I was like, oh, okay, I heard about you through some girls in my school, but I didn't know who you were.
But that's a whole different thing too.
I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding.
The big thing about it is like having that self-doubt, and then even the people, and you always see this all the time, even the people that are supposed to be in your corner sometimes aren't. Even when it's like, I mean, I think football is the ultimate team sport. No, knock on baseball. But even when if you go hit a home run, or you get a single, or you steal a base, or you play errorless baseball, you're helping the team win, right? Miles Williams doesn't win. I could go 20 for 20, 5 for 5, rush for 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I helped the team win. But it was like they didn't want that. They wanted you to do well enough to win games, but not well enough to be the reason why. Yes.
Yeah, bro, dude. And the crazy thing is, in professional sports, especially baseball, we see that. And
right.
I've seen dudes, man, that are just liabilities when it comes to their mental side of things. Like they are legitimately clinically crazy like if they were in the average workplace and if the average public saw them. But they can zone it in when it comes to baseball.
Right.
You know, like you guys are modern day Spartans, and the baseball game's kind of changing in that sense. Like you can see, I'm not going to call out players, but there's players that don't have the best body that are the best players.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Baseball, I've always said baseball is the only sport that you can be out of shape and be great at. If you look at like Big Papi, you look at like Jim Thome, you look at fucking some other first base. You can basically get away with playing DH.
Facts. You know? And it's crazy because some of these dudes have 2 commas in their check. Right. Bi-weekly. Not a lot of people realize that. Like bi-weekly, they have 2 commas in their checks. But I think that it sucks to see whenever you have this great talent, but you are hiding him and you're not letting him perform, or a trade they could trade this guy, but like, oh, we're gonna save him. We don't want him to go perform for another team and then us look bad.
Right.
That happens all the time.
And you see that that's not even just like your teammates. That's a top down. Ooh. That's from the organization, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's what you kind of see, we'll call it in like life, right?
Right.
We have a lot of people in our lives that want you to do well, but they don't want you to do better than you. There are a lot of people in your lives that want you to do well, but they don't want you to shine so much so that you leave them in the dust.
Facts.
Right? A lot of people are proud of what I've represented in Sonoma County, what you've represented in Sonoma County, but would never tell you that to your face.
No shot.
There's just so many people out there from where we're from. And when I say from where we're from, it's everywhere, bro. It is. If I grew up in Tulsa, if I grew up in Reno, if I grew up in South Bend, it's all the same shit. There are a lot of people, as bad as it is to say, that no matter how much good or positive attention you brought to a community, they will be internally proud of it, but they'll also be the first to talk shit behind your back. And it sucks, but at the same time, it's like, I understand, because there are, we'll just say like a lot of people out there that feel like the ball just didn't flip their way, or the ball didn't land their way, and one thing didn't go their way. Mm-hmm. And so like
that guy that tore his ACL in his shoulder.
Right,
so
exactly.
He could go play football in college, right?
Yeah, I got a buddy. One of my best friends. He, I saw him at my buddy's birthday the other day, like in September, and he tore his ACL first. We played Napa High. He tore his ACL like the first series of freshman year, And he'll still tell me to this day when he's drunk, he's like, you know I would have played running back over you, right? If I didn't tear my ACL. I'm like, yeah, I guess. I guess. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah.
Which I mean leads you into like even just going as far to say like, well, number one, the best ability is availability. You and I have both learned that through battling through injuries. But at the same time, it's like you talk about luck, you talk about preparation. So many people let opportunities go by. Like if you got a call tomorrow, are you ready to play?
100%.
Right? Exactly. But there are a ton of people who might be better than you, who if they got the call tomorrow, they're not ready to play. But guess what? The next call is going to be to you and you will play. Right?
Well, I mean, it's great that we're doing this podcast. You know, today the MLB lockout happened, right? Or it's ended. It's ended. The chains are off. And what I have a lot of big league guys and guys that are top prospects, AAA time that, you know, they're on the cusp. And this is the best situation for some of these guys. It's the best situation for some of the guys in low A too, because what's going to happen is you're going to have guys that didn't necessarily prepare the way because they knew they weren't going to be in spring training so early.
Right, right.
And there's going to be injuries. It's just inevitable. Injuries are going to happen, and it's going to be next man up. So some of these guys, kind of like the COVID year, there's a lot of guys that
the COVID year helped a lot of guys because there's a lot of guys that couldn't play. Yeah,
it got guys up to the big leagues, and I know some, and they'll say it right. I probably wouldn't have been in the big leagues if COVID didn't happen. You know, it was a blessing in disguise. But it's very, very, very true.
Right. And one thing, so you're 29 now, right? You've been in different farm systems, in different leagues, and playing in different countries. And one thing that people always ask, they ask me, football's a little bit different, right? Because football, it's like you're either playing in the NFL. It's very much so monopolized.
Yeah.
Now with the XFL coming out, they're trying to do this farm system, which I think is great. But and then there's Canada.
Yeah.
And I got one of my closer friends that's still playing. He just re-signed in Canada, led the CFL in tackles last year. One of my closer friends that I played linebacker with, he just retired last year. He played 8 seasons in the NFL. But
won a Super Bowl too.
What keeps you going, right?
Oh, man.
I'm sure at so many times in your career, you've been like, hey, is this the last year? Is this the last break? What keeps you going? Are you, and I think this is how a lot of people should be, as long as the Tom Brady, as long as I'm able to perform, I'm going to continue to go. Or like, what is it for you? And I guess the word's perseverance? I don't remember.
To be honest, bro, like I've actually never been like I'm done. It's never really been in the back of my mind. You know, there's been times where I'm like, okay, you know, we need to start setting things up. Obviously, you know, but I'm a huge believer in if you take your mind off of what you're doing, then and where your feet are, then you're not gonna. Your mind's gonna start wandering. Yeah,
right. If you have that plan B, then it's like you're not all in on plan A.
B. Excuse my language, but fuck plan B.
This podcast is sponsored by Plan B.
Well, Plan B, Plan B. I'm saying, not Plan B in your internal mind.
Because that's always the question that people get. Like people ask me, like, "Well, why'd you stop playing?" I always lead with, "Wasn't good enough." Right? That's just me. Different sports, different world. I got boys that played Canada for a while. Won't either stop ringing. Right? Yeah. I have boys that continue to try to do the AAF, the AFL, that are going back to it, right? I think even like Scoop just re-signed.
He did.
He just re-signed with the team.
Good for him. I saw that actually.
And it's like some people just got it and can continue to go. For baseball, I feel like for baseball, and I've never played obviously at this level, and I don't know a ton of people that have. I feel like you're just fucking always right. Like there's not an A, double A, triple MLB. It could be double A MLB. It could be, I'm sure there's instances of single A to MLB, especially because there's so many instances, nuances, and baseball is such a fucking like chess match. It's like playing Battleship. Like there could be somebody who just has a fucking is a lefty that has a nasty slider, and he's in single A, and we're like, hey, we're gonna go up and we have a 3-game series against the Mariners, and the Mariners have a fucking nasty left-handed batting 3-4-5.
Yeah.
So we got to bring in the lefty that has a wicked slider, right?
See, you speak like a true GM, and you're not even in baseball.
Right,
That's
but
wild,
I mean,
bro.
I love baseball.
Yeah,
Right? Baseball was like
wild.
my first love. That's why it's like GMs are so powerful in like building the roster. That's why it's like the Yankees haven't fucking won the World Series in so long. Is because they just come and bring sluggers in every time. When you look at, I won't talk about the Astros, but you look at somebody like plays small ball, right? When the Giants were going every other year, like they played small ball better than anybody else, and they GM'd the shit out of all of those World Series. And so it's like baseball, I feel like if you got something, right? You got a big bat, you got a good glove, you do something extremely well, it's like, bro, hang on, continue to play because you fit into somebody's roster somewhere.
Facts.
Right?
It's kind of like how football is, you know. I know Canada's probably the best paying that you can get when it comes to like underneath the NFL as of now.
Right.
In this AFL, I think it's gonna be great. You know, the minimums and stuff. But you know, you got Taiwan. They pay very well, like very, very, very well. You got Japan. That's the biggest market other than the MLB is the Japan.
Right.
And you got Korea. And then you have these winter leagues. And the winter leagues, I'm not going to say how much money guys make, but for 2 months, 3 months, I know guys that are chilling for
the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year.
So that's one thing. So I talked to my buddy Justin about this, and he does a lot of work like with the SAC.
The River Cats.
G League. No. Basketball.
G League. Okay.
Stockton Kings, sorry. And he knows like a bunch of basketball players. He was telling me, because I'm like, hey, why wouldn't somebody go play overseas? Because NBA is obviously massive overseas, right? You can go overseas and make more money overseas than you can in the G League here. Why stay in the G League? And then he explained to me that like you have a better chance of getting pulled up, right, from the G League because you're right in their system. Here. They know you. You're available right away. It's not a whatever, and you're playing the same type of basketball, you know. Versus especially if you're playing over Europe, it's a little bit different style of basketball, and you're playing against different competition. But you got to take a pay cut. And the way that we talked about it is like basically these guys are betting on themselves. They're doubling down on themselves now to make it to the NBA versus taking a paycheck.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's as easy? Because like what you were explaining, you can go play the season in Taiwan, you can play the season in Mexico, you can go play the season in Australia, wherever the hell it is, and then in Japan, and probably make 4 times what you would as like a single A maybe or something like that. I don't know the numbers, but you have to hop around. Do you feel like the league looks at you guys as seriously if you are playing in those other leagues as far as pulling you over, or do they want to bring somebody up from within?
You know, it's so crazy that you say that because I'm betting on myself, right?
Right.
I'll give you an example of last year, and I'll give you an example of this year. This year I'm signed in the Atlantic League, which is the premier indie league, right? But it gives me availability instead of being like with the Texas Rangers and I'm in their farm system, I'm available to all 30 teams, all different leagues. But when it comes to the MLB, it's partnered. So the buyout for, let's say, like I'm with the High Point Rockers this year. For the MLB team to buy my contract from the Atlantic League because they have a partnership, it's anywhere from.
It's cheaper than if
it's
you're
a lot
from
cheaper.
Japan.
Yeah, I think it's $5,000, right?
Versus like if you were in a Japanese contract or a contract over in Japan.
I could be in the indie league in Japan, and it's still gonna be. They can be like, they can set the number and they have my rights, so I might not know what's going on behind the scenes.
Exactly, and so that's why it's like we always have to make these decisions, just like in life, right? As fucked up as it is, it's like, could you be better off playing in Japan right now just from a monetary standpoint? Like, yeah, maybe, but you know long term that it's an easier decision for a team to pull you from the league that you're in now.
Facts.
And it's, I mean, we can say it's fucked up or whatever, it is what it is, but as long as you have a good team, like a good management team, and they're like, hey, communicating it with you and saying like, hey, this is what you might be foregoing, or like, hey, I know this manager of this team over here, and he doesn't give a fuck where you're playing. He's going to buy you out regardless. You might take a hit in your salary. If they got to pay 10 extra grand to get you, you might take a hit in your salary in this year one, but like we're trying to get you like a multi-year contract.
It's here's an example of what happened to me last year, man. I signed in the Mexican League, which is a very, 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 very great league. A lot of ex-big leaguers and I know guys that have come, like last year they signed about 3 guys.
Right.
To go to affiliate ball. But when people go to Mexico, it was kind of shunned upon because it was like, oh, this guy just wants to go make his money. And not necessarily really push for the big leagues. And that wasn't my situation. My situation was, hey, COVID just happened. I'm doing well right now. And I had to make an opportunity. I could have made some good money. And I decided to stay. And it worked out for me. I finished on a very, I did very well that when I was playing. I just had to get some at bats underneath me as anything. And I tell people are like, oh, like when are you gonna stop? I'm like, dog, I don't even think that way.
Right.
I don't like right now yet.
Of course, yeah. You transition to different parts of your life,
right?
Obviously,
it's obviously I have an amazing girlfriend who's the one, as they say, and
she supports you. And,
yes, right. My family supports me, her family supports me, and I know there's gonna come a time where I'm like, all right, I'm done. When I stop smelling the fresh cut grass, when I get out there, like that's when I was probably 2-3 years old playing t-ball.
Right.
Go out there, and I smell. There's a distinctive smell to me, and when that smell is gone, then I know I don't love baseball anymore.
So it's funny that you say that because, like, I don't know the best way to say this, but that is like a lust for life. Mm-hmm. That is what makes you feel alive. And that is what so many people identify with. And I just co-authored. I wrote a fucking chapter of a book. I'm not going to say I'm an author. Right?
No, you can say it now.
Unless Instagram wants to verify me for it. But it's called Forever Athlete, and it's about how, like, once you've started to be an athlete, it's kind of like Fill the Gap, right? Where it's like you take all the things you've learned as an athlete and you transition that into your post-athletic career life, and you become the best businessman, the best husband, the best wife, whatever the fuck it might be. But in the interim, when you're young, when I stopped playing, I was 22, 21. You'll be in your 30s when you stop playing, right? Maybe 40s. So you are more established. You're more confident of the man that you are. I was very lost. Mm-hmm. It's extremely scary trying to find yourself again after you have identified as an individual. And not the only thing, but a large part of your happiness, your entire life, has been the smell of rubber in the turf, right? Fresh cut grass, the smell of the dirt after it's just been watered down,
Yeah.
To be the first person to dig your feet into a batter's box after it's been raked, right? That's the kind of shit that gets you off right now, right?
Like walking in the outfield, and there's a distinct, when you wear metal cleats, you have that crunch. People like, it's funny because like baseball players know what you're talking about, like, oh yeah, man, I can't wait to just feel the crunch underneath. That's such a weird thing for someone to say, but sorry, yeah.
So it's a scary thought to think, where's that crunch after?
Man, for me, I've been very blessed to travel the world, right? Be in rooms with billionaires. Right. Like,
it's that baseball money.
It's crazy, man. And I've been blessed to have some opportunities. I've signed some NDAs where, whether it be a medical company that's massive. So I know that that's there. I'm a personable person. I think God put me on this earth for me to touch people, right? Like, right. Everybody is like, man, Miles, you talk all the time. I'm like, yeah, I do talk all the time. But for me, I'm not going to stop being me except for God himself.
And I think that you are unique in that way because obviously what makes you a good player doesn't really have as much to do with your personality as much as it does with your work ethic. But a lot of guys, especially like your introverted guys, you talk about the guys that like I was definitely one of those guys that it's like after football, I was always Cody Allen, the guy from Rancho Cotati, Sonoma County, the football player, right? I just went back to my hometown last week. I went to Roner Park, walked into a house, and it was Andy Rush, Ryan Decker, Anthony Gordon, Drew Silveri, Ryan Luna. It was all those guys, right? And then like their girlfriends, and it was like, oh, like remember Cody? Like Cody was such a good football player. Cody was this, Cody was that. And like that's all I'm known for, right?
Yeah.
And
you're an entrepreneur now though, man.
Right. And so like if I didn't, but people back home, they don't know what the fuck I do.
I mean, for me, and I'm not trying to cut you off, I'm like super proud of you, bro, because like I remember when you were in college and owned your own house, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
At Sac State, you were grinding then, and you know, it's funny how our relationship is, because like I would come into Sac. I remember you guys were heckling the living hell out of me at Sac State on the garage. Yeah. Jeff Badger,
Jeff,
Curtis.
You see he's about to have a daughter?
I know. Ha, Jeff. But no, you know, I mean, like, but I've seen you grind. I saw you fucking bouncing. I saw you bouncing, grinding your ass off in some hood ass clubs. I saw you, you know, start multiple companies, but you also got out of there. Okay, you got out of Sonoma County.
Right. And I appreciate you, but because you've seen it, right?
Yes.
We've all had like these conversations. We've kind of like, there's a mutual respect, definitely between you and I.
Oh, 100%.
But people that you've seen that are doing it while you're doing it, like while you fucking have just wanted to quit from every injury, from every time that you got moved down the lineup, whatever the hell it might be, when you're like, I'm looking at that dude and like, all right, he's still doing it. Like, I'm going to continue to do it. Right? And then knowing what that does like mentally to someone, like every time you've told me like, oh man, like I'm injured or whatever, like I'm not playing for them anymore. When I'm like, oh, I'm coming out to wherever the fuck you were playing at. And then I'm like, all right, man, like I'm just going to be here and support. Like I know that you're going through some shit, because mentally that's fucking tough. So you can understand that. I can empathize with that, but I think a lot of people can't, right?
They can't, man, because they're not in the 1%. And there's nothing against them.
Right.
That's nothing against them. It's just they don't, I don't know.
They're also the first critics though. So it's like people that haven't lived it are generally the first critics.
Gosh, man.
And so it's unfortunate. You definitely get tough, thicker skin, you know? That's why I always say, my buddy Tim, he's always like, if I started a company, I would only hire people that played team sports growing up. I think everybody needs to play team sports growing up, because it teaches you so much how to interact with people, how to persevere, how to attack adversity, obstacles, the whole thing, right?
And what people don't realize is the banter, right? Like you understand the locker room banter. I'm not talking about locker room talk. I'm talking about locker room banter. I look forward to those things, you know. I look forward to learning more Spanish and not just Spanish. I'm talking about Cuban Spanish, Puerto Rican Spanish, Dominican Spanish, and just the camaraderie. Oh man. But like, I know you, like, people could talk shit to you and you could take it. I could talk shit to you, you could take it, and not be like, oh, let's fight, bro.
That's huge, because, and especially when you get to the next levels, and that's what I was gonna say too, is like, you have been blessed to have experienced people from all parts of the world. So like me, coming from high school, like you said, you grew up, everything's very personal, because like you've known these guys for forever, right? You're all in the same high school. You go home, you go to school, you go to football, you're there, right? Or you go to school, you go to baseball, you're all right there. But then you go to college, and now I'm playing a cat from Louisiana, a cat from Austin, a cat from New York, right? So they're all coming from different spots now. And so now I'm really learning what that part of America's like, this part of America's like, this part of America's like.
And what you can and can't say.
Exactly. But you have been fortunate enough to be like, I'm playing with a cat from Dominican. I'm playing with a cat from Cuba. I'm playing with a cat from maybe Japan, you know?
Yeah.
So you've been cultured, if you will, by a lot of different people. And that's why I feel like you have probably even a better perspective on like what people really give a fuck about.
Bro, people,
about what you say.
Dude, I think people just it comes down to respect.
Yes.
Because like me, people like, unless you know me, that's the only way you're gonna know I really play baseball. Because when I'm out, I don't talk about it, but you know how Sonoma County is, bro. Dude, I was in Starbucks a couple years ago, and I had some kid come up to me. Dude, remember when I struck you? Bro, you struck me out. Welcome to the club, bro.
Right.
Welcome to the club. Like, I'm just trying to get some coffee, get out of here. And I know it comes with the territory. It's okay. But it's funny to me, those guys that are like, oh, bro, if I would have kept it up, I probably would have been in your shoes. Nah, bro, you did you. You did you.
And that's a lot of times that's fucking okay. Right?
Yes.
It's super okay to have not gone and played at the next level, to not gone and played at any level.
Facts.
It's like, there's no shame in saying like, yeah, I just stopped playing at JUCO. It's like, bro, you either didn't want to keep playing. We need to stop hanging our hat on this person's better because they play a sport, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a fucking sport, and that's not who you are as a person, you know?
Yes.
And
is it going to be on your tombstone?
Correct, exactly. So much more, like, we idolize athletes when we shouldn't. We should idolize good people. A lot of people are always like, oh, like they name drop, like, oh, you know this guy, you know that girl, you know this guy and that girl, whatever. They were here with this person. I'm like, bro, I don't know anything about them. These are just names to me. These are literally just names to me. And that's okay that you idolize them, but also don't put all your eggs in one basket by idolizing a person that you don't know, because they could turn out to be a shitty person. And now you're holding the bill, you know?
And it's funny that, you know, like this is a situation that happened today. I train at this place called Optimum Athletics over in Sacramento out here. And Ryan Matthews played in the big leagues. He's running that whole operation. And
baseball or football?
Baseball. Okay. Ryan Matthews. Yeah, they're not that one. Was in the big leagues with the Nationals. Great guy, man. Great player, but even great guy.
Right.
And he said something today that I think when it doesn't even matter if it's being an athlete or in the workplace. He said, we gotta stop giving these kids and people like gratification after they do just one thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, good, that boy, good job. That a girl, good job. You can't do that, because then when you get put into a situation like what we're doing, right? I grind my butt off. Yeah, I talk, but don't get it twisted. I can talk because I've been able to groom myself to be able to do this while I'm doing this.
Yeah, and the big thing about that too is if you're constantly providing instant gratification, then you're going to think that all I got to do is one thing and I've won.
Man.
Not realizing that, and that's why 10,000, the clothing company is called 10,000. That's why there's something called the 10,000 hour rule. You will not be great at anything or be successful at anything unless you put in multiple
hours.
little fucking steps. And it takes so much to actually get good at something. They think that, okay, I'm going to go out there. All right, cool. I struck out Miles Williams one time. Where's my MLB contract? I can strike it out a pro ball player, right?
Facts.
And it's like, bro, no. It's like you need to strike somebody out 10,000 times, and then, cool, you're a strikeout artist. Does that mean you can throw strikes? I don't fucking know. But obviously there's a lot more to it, right? So there's just so much of these people that think like, all right, cool, especially now we're out of COVID. People are like, all right, cool, I showed up at the office. Now we got to go back to work. All right, cool, you showed up today. What, it's fucking Monday, right? Are you going to show up Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? It's like, continue to show up, continue to put in the work. Because people only see I had a coach that said this. He ended up being a shitty coach. He counted up the hours. He counted up the amount of hours that we trained in the off season for what came out to be 32 minutes.
Isn't that wild?
Average time between whistles of a football game, particularly the play time, is 32 minutes. It's like 200 plays or whatever. It's like 4 seconds play or whatever. But you put in hundreds of thousands or thousands of hours in the off season, just so that on August 27th, you can go line up and play for 32 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many balls have you hit off the tee? How many balls have you hit off the cages? How many balls have you hit off wherever? Just so that you can have one opportunity. It's not even a home run. Just to get ahead.
Man, to look good in the box like you actually know what you're doing.
Right, and that's bro, even if they throw a strike.
Facts.
You just have an opportunity to hit the ball.
Well, that's what. That's all. My bad.
No, I was just gonna say that's what people don't realize. People only get, and people don't even watch full fucking baseball games. People will just want to see one pitch, one swing. They don't even watch full at bats half the time.
And that's why the you know, like, so my buddy Jack Flaherty with the Cardinals, amazing guy. You know, I'll take a bullet for him. You know, I've worked out with him the past few years, and he and I were always talking about, and some other guys, like, you know, like, how can we make baseball fun again, right? There's only 2 people that Nike ever gave a actual cleat to. Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Trout. Nike. Right. Think about that. Think about that, bro. There's been 2 guys that Nike's given a cleat to. Now, the NBA, kids see, oh man, the KDs, you got the Jordans, you got all this. And so, yeah, it's when you don't have that much money, baseball is a very expensive sport too. Let's not get it twisted, especially for the kids, So like a bat's $400 and a glove's $200. Think about that, bro. You can't give that. I mean, I was blessed. My family, we're going to do what I had to earn my stuff, but like,
yeah, exactly.
It was,
yeah.
Right? And then I got on teams where like I was getting stuff for free. So it's different, but I get so tired of this. Like, I like the process more than the result. I like the process of waking up, and doing my routine. And if you're not routine oriented, you're not going to provide any value in the real world.
Right, because this is always going to translate to everything. It's going to translate to your work, your relationship, your friendships. It's going to translate into you being a dad, mother, son, whatever the hell it might be. So many people are just like, I want to have the house. I want to have the girlfriend. I want to have the wife. I want to have the husband. But you're not doing all the fucking steps to get there.
Man.
So being an athlete for so long, you really fucking learn what it takes to get to that ultimate goal. And if you don't fall in love with the process, you're not going to wake up at 5 a.m. to do it, right? You're not going to commute to from Napa to Sacramento. You're not going to do any of that shit. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not going to have this ultimate goal that you want. And when you look from afar, you're going to check out on people doing it on Instagram, and you're going to be like, man, if I didn't tear my ACL.
Bro. I mean, look what Devontae Adams said, right? It went viral, you know, because it's so true. Like, we don't need you need to stop recording your drills. Yeah. Like, bro, it's so true.
What's sexy about being good at your craft?
No, man. I think for me, for example, I am so blessed to have some mentors and guys that are the best in the league to have in my corner and be able to talk to them and pick their brains on the athletic side of things and business side of things and life side of things. Most big league guys don't even talk about baseball. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, because it's just like football. You want to check in and check out. It's not all football. It's not all baseball. Like, so for me, I don't talk baseball outside of baseball.
Right. All right, man. We'll leave a heart out.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you for coming.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Heck yeah.
And that's the last episode.
All right, let's do it.